Hi crafters, and welcome to Creative Moments by G. I'm G, and today we are working with vellum. Vellum can add some elegance to the cards that you're making. So let's head down to the crafting table and let's get busy. The first card we're going to make will be using the two-tone flora and this beautiful embossing folder called Twigs and Sprigs. Now, this is retired, but it's so beautiful that we want to continue using it. Now, I'm sure that you have some embossing folders and some flower stamps that you can use to recreate this beautiful card. Let's just look at our vellum. You see how it's translucent? So one of the tips and tricks that you need to really think about is how are you going to adhere this to your card? There's lots of different ways that you can do that. You can strategically place your little glue dots or your dimensionals behind something that you've stamped. That really works. Or you can take your card and you can put your adhesive on your card and then lay your vellum on top of that. It's really however you want to do it. But if you're not careful, you will be able to see the glue, the tape runner, or the glue dot that you put on this vellum. You will be able to see it. So just think about that and think about the tips that we're going to show you on this video so that you won't be able to see your glue. But let's go ahead and design our first card. Now, our first card, we will be dry embossing on our vellum. So we've just taken a card and we have cut a little bit off the bottom. This is just your regular card, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And then we just cut an inch off the bottom because we're going to add some designer series paper here and we want you to be able to see this. Now I want to remind you, you can head on over to our website, click on my blog, and we'll have all the measurements for you. And the supplies and materials will be listed below this video under View More in case you decide that you want to recreate these cards exactly the way we have them. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to add our top mat to this card. So let's go ahead and do that. We're just selecting our gorgeous grape cardstock. We just love this cardstock. And one thing we do love about Stampin' Up! Is they do coordinate all their colors so well. So let's just lay that down, making sure that we have the same border all the way around. And now we have a top mat. But before we add that top mat, we want to add some flowers right here. So let's go ahead and grab our stamps from Two Tone Flora and get that stamped. Now we will be using Blackberry Bliss, Gorgeous Grape, and Granny Apple Green. And we're using this dark color because that's going to give us our definition in our flower. Now I'm going to be stamping off this mat, so I want to make sure and lay down another piece of paper. This is a two-step process. So I'm going to bring in our bottom layer first, and that's going to be the lighter color in Gorgeous Grape. So let's just get that stamped. I'm going to bring in the second layer of this stamp, and as you can see, it has the definition. So let's just get that stamped. Now, you do need to pay attention when you stamp this first one so that you know exactly where to lay this. Look at that. So pretty. And now we're going to bring in some leaves. Just going to bring in a few more leaves from the stamp set. And now we're going to take a punch, and I'm going to punch out 3 circles. One in white, one in our vellum. Now, one thing when you're working with vellum, you want to make sure and try not to bend it. So go ahead and punch it out and keep it flat. Now, I have already punched out my gorgeous grape circle and my white circle. Now, on this one, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my embossing folder, and we're going to emboss this. And I'm just going to pick a really pretty area. I think right here. And now I'm going to run this through the embossing machine. And look at that. Look how pretty that is. Now we're just going to bring in our card. We are going to lay this right on the top. We are going to put this right behind just to give it some added dimension. And now we're going to stamp on this white one. Now I'm going to stamp just a little bit of our flower. So I'm going to be stamping off. So make sure that you have that paper laid down. And I'm going to come in with my hello. And I'm going to stamp that in memento. So tap, tap, tap. Just center it. I'm going to bring in my Blackberry Bliss to give us our definition on our flowers. Just going to stamp a few leaves. And now we're ready to add our circles. So I'm going to put the vellum just like that and set this up right here on some dimensionals. Now remember, you need to strategically place your glue dots right underneath these little images, and that way you won't be able to see it. So I'm just going to lift a glue dot right off. Gonna add it right on that image. Gonna add another one. And then one down here. Now we're going to move on to the inside, and we are adding this beautiful DSP to coordinate with the front of our card. Now make sure that you stay with us because we have 2 more cards to show you with the vellum. Just going to lay this down, making sure that we have the same border. Look how pretty that's looking, but we need a place to write. So we have cut, and I have also stamped, "Thank you with all my heart," a map that will fit right on the inside. Now, look at this card. Look at that vellum. It just adds such a beautiful image to the front of this card. We just love working with vellum. Now, let's move on to our second card. Now, we have selected some pumpkin pie, and then the coordinating DSP. We are going to use for this card our cheerful daisies, and we're using some cutouts and some overlays, and we're also using this diagonal die to really give it some interest. So let's get into making this card. Now you need to make sure that you don't accidentally put a crease in your vellum, because once it's creased, it's going to stay just like that. So we're going to take this vellum and we are going to place it right in the corner, leaving a little border. Now, when you're working with vellum, you want to make sure that your hands are clean and free of lotion and oils and ink, because it will transfer to your vellum. So let's go ahead and run this through our embossing machine. Now very carefully lift this off. And you can just punch out these extra little squares. I'm going to take it to the trash and get those all punched out. We are going to be laying this over this beautiful DSP. So once again, we have that problem. We need to make sure that we strategically put our little glue dots so that you can't see this. Or, like I said before, you can go ahead and put your glue right here on this DSP and then just lay it down. But before we do that, we want to go ahead and stamp our message. So we're going to bring in our Versamark and we are going to stamp thank you. Now I'm going to put it right here because we have some flowers that are going to come in and we're going to lay right here. So let's line this up on our grid paper. Now I'm going to bring in our white powder. Now, whenever you put any heat to vellum, you need to make sure that it's on a low setting and that you keep it about 6 to 7 inches away so that you don't curl your paper. And just know that it's going to take a little bit longer to heat up your paper, and that's fine. And look how pretty that is. So let's go ahead and lay down our mat right on top of our card. And we've cut it to be exactly the same size as our card. Now we are going to lay this down, and I know that I'm going to have some flowers right here, so I can put some glue right here. So I'm going to bring in my silicone mat. I'm going to add some glue right here, and I'm going to bring in a sponge. I've just put a bear claw right here so that I can get this all sticky. And I'm also going to use a little bit of this silicone mat for my area in case I go off. So I'm just going to put some glue right here. I'm going to let that dry and get tacky for just a second, and then I'm going to lay this over this. So just for a second, and now we're just going to line this up. And lay that down, and I'm going to add some glue dots right here on this border. And now I have used that beautiful daisy stamp set, and I have cut out some flowers and the overlays, and we're going to add that to the front of our card. So we're going to add it just like this, and look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Now I can go ahead and lay this flat, or I can put it up on some mini dimensionals. And I think I'm gonna do that. Just put it up on some mini dimensionals. We're just gonna take the backing off and then lay it down on our card. Just going to lay it right there. And now we're going to add our leaf right there, and we're just going to lay it down with some adhesive. We're going to come in and put our stem on our larger leaf and just finish with our overlays. Now I'm going to bring in our Nuvo pen because it's liquid glue and it goes on with a really nice tip. I'm going to bring in our silicone mat again, and I'm just going over the back side of this with this Nuvo glue pen. Now we're going to add our sentiment mat on the inside. And here is our card. What do you think about that? This vellum just embosses so beautifully, and we were able to use our die and cut it out. It didn't crack it at all. You do sometimes have to be careful when you use an embossing folder. Make sure it doesn't crack, but this die just worked perfectly. So here are our two cards. Take a moment and let us know of these two cards, which is your favorite? I just love the way white looks on this card. I think it is so pretty, and yet I'm very partial to purples. So let us know. But remember, I said I would show you some additional cards. So let me show you those. Look at this beautiful card that we made. We actually embossed this vellum, and then we colored on the back side of it with just a blending brush and a little bit of color. It actually looks like porcelain, and we added some beautiful frames to it. Such a pretty card. And finally, we tore this paper. Vellum is very easy to tear, so you don't have to worry about that. You just need to make sure that you don't crimp it when you tear it. And we just added this to the front of our card. We have plenty of room to write. So let us know which is your favorite. We would love to hear. We want to remind you, working with vellum can really take your cards to the next level. They can create such an elegant overlay on your cards. You can wet emboss them, dry emboss them. So we hope you had fun with our tutorial today. Please take a moment, give us a thumbs up if you were inspired, and remember to subscribe to our channel. We want you to go out and have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.